Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, maybe good 3 a.m. And welcome back to another episode of For the Love of Drag podcast. My name's Astala Vista.
And I'm Jimmy Boone.
And we are going to be your hostesses with the mostesses. Yes. So, Jimmy, let's tell them what we're going to be talking about today, because today I am beyond excited for this episode because I feel like it's going to be an emotional roller coaster. I feel like we're going to go up, we're going to go down. It's going to be funny. It's going to be sad. It's
there might be a little
happy.
bit of trauma dumping, maybe.
A little trauma dumping. So,
today we are very excited to talk about our experience growing up gay. Specifically...
Wait, you grew up gay?
Well, no, I grew up straight, I guess, actually. Turned gay a little afterwards. But our experience specifically in the New Jersey, South Jersey, North Jersey area, both kind of grew up in different areas. And we're just excited to kind of give our different experiences for our straight audience members who may not know the experience and are kind of a little bit more interested in our backstory and some things like that.
Absolutely. And I mean, we're talking about like New Jersey, North Jersey, South Jersey, but I mean, you could have a different parent and that experience alone could be such a game changer. So
you can have a parent that doesn't even know you're gay at all.
100%. So I'm very excited to dive into this because I don't think we've ever like fully talked about our coming out stories in depth, have we?
I think maybe very, very early off in our relationship when we were back in that like we couldn't stop texting each other at work kind of phase, but like it's been a while, and I'm very excited to hear it again.
I don't know yours.
I don't remember. It's good. So I know, obviously, a lot of people like to say that being gay is a choice, this, that, or the other thing. But I think we both kind of believe that you're born gay, more or less.
I mean, I think that one, honestly, it like when you're gay and you're, I don't know how old I knew, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old. You knew very, very early. But you hear the whole entire world telling you that like it's a choice. You kind of start to realize very, very young that people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. If I'm being honest,
literally not at all.
You're like, here I am struggling internally. Fuck my drag. Internally, I got it together with this giant struggle that I'm dealing with, and you guys are all saying it's a choice out here. So you kind of realize very young, like, people don't really know what they're talking about, at least when it comes to sexuality.
No, and they're literally just kind of like making this shit up as they go along based on like one experience they may have seen on TV or like some
what the news said in the 80s or something.
Literally everything you just said. But I think we can both kind of go off on experiences that we had from our early childhood years and just kind of, I want us today to kind of go through our timeline from our early years to when we came out to life after coming out and just kind of the journey to being comfortable in our own skin.
The queer journey.
There we go. The gay agenda, if you will.
I love it.
So, Astala, do you want to start and just maybe go back to an experience where you remember as a child where you were like, oh, damn, I was gay?
I mean, it was obvious. I wasn't one of those kids where you were going to be like, I had no idea. Like, it was very, very obvious I was gay. If you did not know I was gay, it was because you were trying to either deny it or you've just never met a gay person and didn't see the signs. I don't know. I mean, I did it all. It was dolls. It was hairdresser. I played flag football at one point, and I, like, freaked out after game number 2. I, like, sissied off the field. Like, it was very, very obvious that I was queer. So let me think of the first, like... I don't know.
Were you like in mom's closet in the heels?
I was definitely in mom's closet in the heels. I was doing that whole thing. I had a very, very young gay sexual experience playing doctor. Like, I was gay. It was obvious. There was no hiding it. There was no denying it. I don't know. A lot of the things I said were very gay too, as well. I remember one time I was at IHOP with my aunt at like, I think I've told you this story before, like 7 or 8 years old, and I was in a bitchy little mood, and they have Happy Face pancakes there.
Right.
Okay, so they have Happy Face pancakes there, and I ordered the Happy Face pancake, but I was in a sassy mood, and I said, can you turn it into a frown and make it a sad face pancake? so the waitress brought me the sad face pancake, right? And then ate the meal. I was done. I wanted to go. They were sitting for coffee. I was over it, and I said, I wanted to go home. And they said, well, we're not going home, Joey. We have coffee right now. We're going to hang out for a little bit longer. And I said, well, how about I hop all the way home? Girl, when I tell you, like...
Was that baby's first read?
I think so. I think it was. I think that was like my first one. Like, I wasn't playing games. So, like, basically the point I'm trying to get across is, like, I've always just been a really sassy, gay like, I'm not going to say a guy because I kind of fall in between genders. I'll say that for sure. But I've always been just a gay little fruity character, and kind of just continued that into adulthood.
Made a career out of it, maybe?
Literally. I remember back in the day, like, one of my favorite things to do was take a towel, like, bath towel, whatever,
Sure.
and turn it into as many different dresses as I possibly could, like different runway. Like,
How many dresses can you do?
I mean, girl, the options were endless. Not everyone had to cover everything either.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean? Like, it
The
could just be like
J-Lo dress,
a
maybe?
little Shaw moment. Yes, like there was options, there was layers to this. So like, my whole life has revolved around just fashion, makeup, theater, like everything, and drag just really brought it all together.
No, I can totally see that for you. And I know just when we first met, obviously you weren't a drag queen yet at that point, but I knew that you were a successful hairstylist for only about 2 years at that time, but you had a full book, and obviously fashion and hair and everything like that was clearly a passion in your life. I can say that I had a similar memory that I can say that pinpoint back to my childhood. I
I can't wait to hear.
was probably 5 or 6 years old. I was in, believe it or not, the Florida Keys. I don't think it was Key West, but we were in the Keys somewhere.
Okay.
And I was on like a full family vacation.
Okay.
And I remember my dad, my Aunt Janice, and then her boyfriend at the time, Scott, all encouraged me for some reason to take whatever shirt I was wearing and like tie it up into like a little midriff with a little knot moment right here, and then walk out of a room and out of a hallway and just be like, "Hey, sexy guys, want to go to a gay bar?"
Oh,
And this was a bunch of
God.
40, 50-year-olds, whatever they were at the time, telling a 5-year-old to do this. And I don't know if you remember the story that I told you. There's some signs about my dad. I don't know. We're not going to get into it too much, but he passed away when I was 21. And,
I remember the suspenders.
Yeah, when we cleaned out his house in Florida, there was a suspicious pair of rainbow suspenders that I can't pinpoint why they would have been there.
L-O-L.
Other than some extracurricular activities he may have had that I didn't know about.
That alone, though, that cracks me up. Like the whole like tie your shirt up,
Yep.
do that whole thing. People are all like, "Oh, drag queen sexualized children." Let me tell you, straight people, there'll be a 6-month-old baby. Oh, are you gonna marry her?
Yep.
Like,
Is
it's
this
a
your
fucking
boyfriend?
newborn. What's going on? Like,
All it wants is a bottle.
literally, like, what's a bottle? Like, calm down.
Oh, it's too much. And then I can just remember too, in my experience, I was always kind of, although I was a big fan of like superheroes and action figures and whatnot, I always had a huge interest in like the more girly toys and stuff like that as well. My parents growing up, we weren't the most like affluent. We didn't really have much money at all. But I would always remember going to like my cousins' houses, and they would have like the Barbie dream house and all of the different
Yup.
Barbies, and you'd be able to play with them. I remember one of them had the Barbie Power Wheels car, and we would be able to drive that around the backyard. I was just living my life.
Yes.
The one Barbie fantasy that I do remember getting though was it was called Barnes and Noble, the bookstore.
Okay.
In the kids section by the coloring books would have paper doll books. And
Okay.
I don't know how this wasn't a goddamn dead giveaway, but I used to encourage my mom to allow me to get these paper doll books. And they would be ones that were like Marie Antoinette looks from like the whatever,
LOL.
1800s or whatever, to all the way to like more modern things.
Look,
and
you were making and controlling the queens back then.
Literally, I was playing dress up. And then I remember just like going into my teen years, there was a show on ABC, Alias, with Jennifer Garner. It was like
Okay.
kind of where she got her like
Yeah.
big break, more or less. But she was essentially a drag queen for the first few seasons of that show. She would wear different wigs and put on different personas and everything like that. And my most exciting part of every episode was like, what is the look she's going to turn this week? Not even realizing like how drag focused
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
queer focused this was the entire time.
So she would have like a different wig, full
Yeah,
full.
It was
geesh.
like literally a different alias that she was
Duh,
personifying every single time. She would be like an undercover CIA agent or whatever it
Oh,
was.
fun.
But like I just remember being obsessed with that. And then anytime there was like an action figure where you could like take the mask off or take the hair off and put another hair on or
You're
something.
obsessed?
Obsessed every single time.
Who was your Mario Kart character?
Oh, I was not a Mario Kart girl
Ah,
back in the day.
ah.
I was a.
It would have been Peach, though, right?
I probably would have picked one of the more animal creatures, like the lizard,
Okay,
Yoshi
all right,
or
well,
whatever.
I was always a
I was a
Peach.
big Duck Hunt fan, and then I did Sega as well. That was my big thing in that
Like, not too
time
many
frame.
queer characters I can think of on Sega.
Sonic?
So, okay,
He's
all
pretty
right,
gay.
yeah, we'll let it go. We'll let it go.
He's pretty gay.
What
about
else?
girly toys?
I'm
Anything
trying
like that
to
for you?
think back when you were just talking about Barbie, the paper dolls. So I remember I used to go to my friend Andrea's house growing up. She had this computer program where you could like print out the dolls and print out the clothes. It was Barbie.
Ooh.
And you could like cut them out, put them on the
Oh,
whole
I was
entire-
never this fancy.
I was obsessed with that. That one just hit me like a nostalgia smack in the face. So totally loved that as well. What else? What were some other things that I really loved playing with? Furbies, but I feel like they can go either way. You didn't really have to be too gay for them.
Were you like allowed to play with Barbies? What was that story?
I mean, I didn't grow up with money, so they were dollar store Barbies.
Sure.
But yes, like I did have my dollar store Barbies.
And they were your Barbies.
They were my Barbies.
Yeah.
I had a very cool grandma. She would always let me play hairdresser on her. She would get me the Barbies. They fed me the fantasy, but then like some of them were just so shocked when I came out. I'm like, really, guys?
I had the same experience when I first came out. It was a lot of, I had no idea. But looking back, I don't know. I feel like there are so many signs and so many tells. Maybe in the 90s, 2000s, whenever it was, the signs weren't there as often. But I feel like
they got me a
they were
Britney Spears
obvious.
CD for Christmas. They got me the Britney Spears CD.
Yeah, I remember my mom. One of the first cassette tapes. Remember those back in the day?
Yes.
Ricky Martin.
LOL.
Ricky Martin. I don't even think he was publicly out at
You
that
are
point in time.
living La
but,
Vida Loca, and Mom had
literally
no
that whatever that album
idea.
was called, or tape, excuse me, was called. I remember that was literally, it was that and Backstreet Boys Millennium, the tape again. For that. I had one of those Walkman things with the tape and the headphones. I remember bringing that to summer camp. It was a whole thing. It was the whole thing.
So obviously, the signs were there for us.
The signs were there, 100%.
There was nothing hidden about us being gay. People should have known.
And I will say, growing up, I guess there were signs and instances of maybe certain people in our family knowing. My family specifically, I remember just constantly kind of, I don't want to say being harassed because that's a little dramatic, but just being like constantly questioned and almost like pressured to say that you were gay. I remember, I don't know if it still happens nowadays or not, but I remember back when we were growing up, there was a term called metrosexual.
Oh my God. Thinking about that term is the funniest shit in the world. Like, there was a term for a well-groomed man that suddenly had to do with their sexuality.
Have you ever heard that term, Evan?
When I was getting dressed up for my friend's Sweet 16, the first time in a very long time that I got to wear anything nice, and I had just come out of the hospital after my lung collapse, so I was I was cleaning up because I was unshaven. I basically got to shower like once a week because I was in there for a while. And I'm doing my hair and putting on like a nice shirt, and my mom's like, "Are you like metrosexual?"
Oh my God.
2017, I believe. And I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Oh my
God.
Okay, so I guess it's still kind of around. I mean, 2017,
it's filtering
8 years
out,
ago,
maybe.
but
Like taking a shower and shaving my face was apparently...
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so the best
hygiene. Let's just say it right now. Hygiene and sexuality should have nothing to do with each other. Okay?
Whatsoever.
Metrosexuality is not real.
Yeah, so if you've never heard the term before, the best way I can describe it is basically that you are a straight person, but or I guess a straight guy is. I don't think I've ever heard it referred to as in a female persona. But a straight man who takes care of themselves and grooms themselves and gets their hair done and eyebrows done and wears like designer clothes in the fashion that like a stereotypical gay man would do. So I remember a lot of people would kind of ask me growing up, "Are you gay? Like, do you think you might be gay?" And I remember my excuse for the longest time was like, no, I'm not gay. I'm just metrosexual. Because I would wear like Express and Abercrombie and stuff like that as I was growing up, and cologne, and get my hair done every 3 weeks and this, that, and the other.
I mean, that was also the time, though, of people saying that's so gay.
That literally.
That's so gay. And it wasn't even like that's so gay meant like that's so feminine or that's so fruity or that's so... Gay meant bad.
Bad. Literally bad.
Gay meant bad.
Yep.
Like that was the thing not to do.
No, there's literally like a half of my family that I don't speak to just because growing up, they literally would just say that everything negative was gay. And once I came out, like, you don't forget those things. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like you will always remember those things, whether those people meant it to offend you at that point in time or not. They should still kind of know better to use that as a term when it could be somebody in their family that they're hanging out with constantly.
Yeah, 100%. That was one that, like, growing up, it was very, very common at that time.
Yep.
I mean, I think we're similar in age, obviously. So, like,
2 years,
that was a very, very, very commonly used one. It was just like, that's so stupid. You used it in place of stupid. So, like, that one definitely, looking back now, like, that's crazy how common that was. Everybody was saying that.
Like, literally everyone. I remember, like, you could say it in school and it wasn't
Yup,
even
like,
a problem.
it's so gay.
Yeah, that's so gay. Like literally,
Crazy to think about that. Well, now we're just thinking again.
I feel like if it was like in today, like if today's technology was around, that would be memes and stuff like that. Like there would be memes that's so gay.
Literally.
Obviously, we're in a better place now. But I'm very excited to hear your full coming out story again. I don't 100% remember that. I remember bits and pieces of it. I know there's probably a different story for your mom versus your dad, and I'm excited to hear those. So
yeah,
we can
same.
take
Ditto there.
We can take a little break, and when we get back, we can get out and get into our
Trauma
coming
dump.
outs. Literally, though, we can get into our coming out stories. Awesome. We'll be right back. And welcome back to For the Love of Drag podcast. I am Jimmy Boone, and I'm here with Astala Vista. And before we went to break, we were talking about some of our early childhood experiences growing up gay. And before we went, I promised that we would get into our coming out stories. But one thing I wanted to talk about before then, I don't know if you had the same experience that I did with this, but I remember like first realizing that I was gay before I said anything publicly or like would act on anything or anything like that. But there was like a huge time period of my life, a few years for sure, where I didn't want that to be the case. I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be gay. I can't be gay. I can't be that person. I don't want to be the like black sheep of the family or whatever it is.
It was almost like it came in like waves. Like at first you were realizing you were gay.
Yep.
And then realizing that the world was not okay with it. And then from there you went into that phase next, I feel like. It was the like, oh shit, this is what I am and people are not okay with this. How am I handling this now?
And like, how are the people around me going to react?
Yep.
I don't know about
Are
you.
they going to react? Am I going to come out at all?
Literally.
Am I never coming out?
I don't know about your experiences, but I didn't really have anyone else gay in my life that was like a regular presence.
No.
So like I didn't have
an
an example of like how my family would react to it more or less. I didn't really have any example. So that was always a huge hesitation, I guess. And it was something that like, besides just trying to come to terms with it myself, I feel like it was one of those things that makes you almost push it to the back burner a little bit, make you compartmentalize it or whatever a little bit more, so that way like you don't even have to deal with it. I know throughout like middle school and early years of high school, I was like trying to force myself to have girlfriends, and then I would realize that like these girls that I was pursuing as girlfriends were really just like my best friends. And there was no like romantical interest at all. And then unfortunately we get to the point on the other side where like there was a romantic interest building, and I was like, I can't reciprocate those feelings.
Yeah, sorry.
It's just it's not you, it's me. It's literally me. But I just remember like, I don't want to say losing friends, but like that like roller coaster of like of friendships with that specifically. And then I also remember there being a time period where there was basically just like a light switch where you stopped giving a shit. I can't pinpoint the exact date and time or anything like that, but like I remember there's a period where you just stop caring what everybody thinks, and I guess that's kind of like where you start to come out and you start to actually pursue your life and whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, I feel like that definitely happened for me a little bit after coming out. I feel like I was still very nervous when I first came out. It was very like touchy. How are people going to receive me? How are people going to respect this? Or they may hate this? What's going to go on? But
Sure.
eventually, I mean, years after I came out, I did get that confidence, but it did take time.
Yeah.
Like coming out, you're starting fresh almost. You just came out as who you actually are, and now you have to see who everybody in your life, how they react to that.
Yeah.
Some people that are extremely close to you might not be okay with it. Some people who aren't the closest to you might take you in and give you the biggest hug ever. So
Yep.
like, it's a learning experience.
No, exactly what you just said. It's like the people that were your biggest fans and the people that you were the closest to, you're scared that they're going to drop you completely. And then sometimes that does happen, unfortunately. But then there are
Yes.
other times, like exactly like you said, where people kind of come out of the woodwork just because you make this announcement or you kind of like live your truth, and they just respect that aspect of everything.
Yep.
And you find a new family. There's that cheesy line with RuPaul, like as gay people and queer people, we get to choose our family.
So true.
And it is true. Like, although I do have plenty of family members that I am still close to and that I love and hold dearly, the majority of my extended family, that is not the case for, because
Yep.
they have shown their actions and I don't have time for it.
Exactly.
And I think we both
Yep.
developed a chosen family with our DQE family.
I think the two of us just demand respect as people, not more respect than anybody else, but like we're not going to go to a family party and get gay jokes made and then expect to sit there and be like, he. I love myself too much for that. I'll be anywhere else.
Yep.
I'll be anywhere else.
We literally charge people to come see the gay jokes.
Literally,
that's not what we're
if
doing.
you want to see the faggotry, honey, you can come to a drag show. Okay, we got you covered.
we literally do
If
this for a
not,
living.
stay at home for the family party.
Yep,
all right.
And we will enjoy the buffet spread. But other than that, please keep it cordial.
But
So
yeah.
speaking of coming out, can you pinpoint like your exact coming out moment? Is there a specific like conversation or person that you came out
so
to that you remember?
Mine was like not a slow journey, but like there was levels to this shit. Okay, so I was obviously in the era of social media. I believe it was MySpace. I was one of those people who was able to code the MySpaces, do everything, HTML, insane. My MySpace was popping. Okay, but anyway, on MySpace you could put your sexuality. You could put interested in men, women, bi,
income. We all made over $250,000 a year.
The whole gig. And I changed mine one day. I was in my, I believe, scene emo phase of high school. So this all is ninth grade that we're talking about. My coming out. This is ninth grade. I was 13 years old. I was very, very young in ninth grade.
You were like
I
year
was 1
behind.
year earlier than everybody. I don't know how it worked. I started kindergarten early. Blah blah blah. But I was about 13 years old when I started high school that year. My whole entire image, my whole like get up was very urban. It was Sean John. It was Lot 29, shaved head, chains, jewelry.
I remember.
Within
Was Paco a brand?
Paco, maybe.
Something like that, yep.
Echo is another
Echo,
one. But within 3 months, I met a whole new group of friends. This is brand new school, by the way. I just moved in with my dad at this point in ninth grade. So brand new school, meeting new people. Within 3 months, I went from a more urban wear to full-on gothic emo, like
Full change.
growing the hair out, doing the whole gig, and that is right around the time when I came out. So like I was going through a look transition phase as well as coming out. So I put it on my MySpace that I was bisexual, and my aunt seen it, and she called me, and she, loving as anything, like, hey, is there anything you want to tell me, this, that? I was like, no, not at all. And then she pretty much spilled the beans.
Aunt Donna?
This is Aunt Donna, yeah. She spilled the beans that she's seen it on my MySpace, that I was bisexual,
I can
and
see
blah,
her
blah,
being
blah,
on
blah.
MySpace.
And it was just like so refreshing, like having that person pretty much say, like, I see in this, and that's totally okay. And she asked like if I wanted to tell my dad, and I don't remember if I said it like that day, but within a week or so, I came out to my dad, and he was like, "Oh, I know." He's like, "That's totally fine." There was no issue there whatsoever. It was amazing. When I came out to my mom, on the other hand, it was not the same like happy story. It definitely took a little bit more time.
Okay.
My stepdad and I did not get along very well growing up. I actually moved in with him because he was a little bit verbally and eventually he got physically abusive, and that's when I had to.
So you lived with your mom and your stepdad?
I lived with my mom and my stepdad until 8th grade.
Okay.
And eventually there was a point where he hit me, and I told my dad. It was like, done, I'm going to move in with my dad now. That was that. So he was the family member that you're talking about that pretty much said like, that's gay, this, that. So I knew that there was going to be a smidgen of an issue there when I came out. And I'm not going to say I had the worst experience because I see so many experiences out there. So I hate to like sound like I really went through it.
Right.
But like it was not accepted at first. My mom kind of like blamed it on other TV shows, this, that. It's a phase you're going through because I just changed my style too. So it was like it's a whole phase right now. So it wasn't the best experience, but I'd say by the time, I remember one time I think we were sitting out to eat with her, right? And like we were like, oh, and like I don't think we ever want to have kids or anything. She's like, oh, that's good because like I don't think gay people should have kids.
I
Like,
don't think two men should raise a baby.
yeah, like exactly. So like just very like doesn't realize how hurtful the things are, but they were said.
Yep.
You see her now. I think she's obviously gotten a little bit better, but in the same sense, there's also a Trump flag at their house. So it's like you know what you're dealing with. They don't hate me by any means, but like I don't
There's
think
a little bit of like tokenization maybe.
Very
is that the word?
Very, very that.
Like I feel like you're definitely supported. Like they come to the shows sometimes. Not
like
so
my
much your
mom will come
stepdad,
to
but,
a show.
but
Yep.
Your mom will definitely, especially compared to your early drag career. I feel like more so recently, there's definitely been a increased level of support.
Absolutely, 100%.
I feel like as people get older too, even parents, they kind of realize maybe the error in their ways, and there's also a whole world that's educating them outside of us, hopefully. So I hope to only see better things for that as well. I think my coming out story is a little similar, a little different. I remember the first person that I actually ever came out to, period, was my friend in high school named Ashley. She was pretty much the last best friend that wanted to be a girlfriend that I had.
Okay.
And I basically got to the point with her where like we were so good of friends. She was like the Karen to my Jack if we were on Will and Grace.
Gotcha.
And it got to the point with her where like I didn't want to have to make up the like bullshit excuse that like, oh, I think we should just be friends or whatever. I was like, I knew she had a crush on me, so I like kind of coerced her to tell me who she had a crush on, and then I was going to tell her a secret about me. So she basically came out and said that she had a crush on me, and then
And how old were you?
I was a junior, so I was either like end of being 16, beginning of being 17,
Okay,
right around that
okay.
time. And I remember she told me that she had a crush on me, and then I literally, like, within the same breath, I was like, I'm gay. And I didn't realize how much of, like, a mental fuck that would be for her, but I just wanted to kind of, like, say it out loud at one point in time. And
It was like a sneeze.
literally. I was like, okay. And I just remember her reaction was, like, at first, she was like, upset, but then she kind of like realized that she wasn't gaining like a boyfriend, but like the gay best friend kind of thing at that time.
Okay.
And
it was a bonus.
yeah. And then we were good friends for probably about a year or so after that. And then shortly after, I ended up in my first relationship, and as often happens when you're in your first relationship, you kind of prioritize that and back burner your friends, and it was that kind of an experience. But then as far as like family and parents goes, I had a similar experience where I remember putting it on MySpace. I don't remember if I did bisexual or not. I remember doing gay. I might have just did it like gay and then like in a relationship with the person.
From the bi to the gay thing too, I didn't like mention that. Like it all kind of happened real quick. Came out as bi, eventually it turned like it was quick. It was within like 2-3 weeks. It was from bi to gay.
That was just more of the like transition.
It
for the
was a
button.
transition period. Like I said, this whole coming out it's a transition period.
No, and it's different for everybody, and especially depending upon the time of the world that you're doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's easier for anybody nowadays, but I do feel like the world is a little bit more accepting than it was 15, 20 years ago.
1,000%.
There are laws that protect people nowadays. We
It
didn't
will
have
get
those.
to the point one day that you do not have to come out, and we're not going to live to that point. I'm going to be honest. I know that for a fact.
No.
But like, it will happen one day where that is so arbitrary to anything.
One thing that I do hear though, that when we do some of the like the pride events and stuff where there's like younger people, a lot of them are saying like to their parents and whatnot, like people don't have to come out anymore. So I do think we are getting to that
Amazing.
point.
Like,
Maybe we will see to a degree in our lifetime. Maybe not fully, but I think we will to a degree
I
in
hope
our
so,
lifetime.
because like sometimes I'm like, is my brain in the year 3000? Like, how are these freaking
Yeah.
Flintstones like still caught up on this shit? Literally, it's crazy.
And I always like it's always the thing with like we were saying earlier with like the children. Like a lot of times people don't know, and just let them fucking figure it out as they get older.
Literally,
Unless you are going to be in a relationship with said person or in any capacity, like
what
mind
are
your
you
own fucking
worried
business.
about? Why do you care what they're wearing or that's a whole rabbit hole, right?
Literally. But back to my coming out stories as far as family goes. My coming out to my mom, she has a different memory of it than I do. She doesn't view it as like a good experience like on her part. She thinks that she kind of failed in some capacity. Compared to a million other people, I don't think that is the case at all. I remember I was in a relationship for probably about a month or so at that point in time when I came out to my mom, and I remember just kind of like trying to like nonchalantly plant the seed, so to speak. And my mom had been single for a while, and I had just said something to the effect of like, oh, you should try to start dating and try to like find somebody that'll make you happy. And she said something to the point of like, oh, like what do you know about that? You're like 16, 17 years old. And I was like, I've actually kind of been seeing somebody for like a month now, and like, I don't know, I'm pretty happy. And she was like, oh yeah. I was like, I didn't know anything about this. And then that basically, she said like, what's their name? And I said the name, and it
You
was,
send out the bait.
yep.
said, whoopsh.
Yep. And I said the name, and it was a male name, and that kind of like took her back for a second. And she didn't even say anything that I even remember as being like negative. She just said like something to the effect of like it's going to take me a second to like get used to this or something to that effect. And I didn't view that as like a bad thing. I think I went into it like expecting 100% the worst. And I expected that. My mom has had this expectation of like the stereotypical, like, you're going to marry a woman, you're going to give me grandkids. Like we grew up with this Italian family. Like she has this image.
Yeah.
So like having to readjust your mindset to me is perfectly natural and normal. Like it's a although when I look back on it, there were the signs and stuff like that. My mom wasn't observant to those signs, and I don't think she necessarily judges people based on like if they like girly things or boy things or this, that, or the other thing. So she definitely like beats herself up a little bit for that, and I wish that wasn't the case because I could have had a lot worse experiences. And you see now she literally works the merch table at our shows.
We love Mama.
She is drag mama to just
She
about
is
everybody
one
that
of the
comes
most
into our
supportive moms
shows
in the world.
Yep.
We love her so much.
I couldn't ask for a better mom. So, and then my experience with my dad, I actually unfortunately never really got to come out to him at all. I was 21 years old when he passed away. It was like 6 months or so before we met. He died in November, and I was actually still with my ex at the time, and it got to the point where like we knew he wasn't going to make it, and it was like it was what it was kind of a thing. He had stage 4 brain, lung, adrenal gland, and I think one other kind of cancer. So it wasn't good. And I basically just wanted to like. My dad had met my ex, but like not as like my partner.
Yeah.
And I basically just wanted to like go to the hospital with my ex and be like, this is my partner, I'm gay, and like just have this like little coming out experience that like would have been for nobody but myself, more or less. He wouldn't have fucking known any difference. He was in a goddamn medically induced coma. But at the time, my sister was very, I guess, nervous or whatever about my dad's medical condition, not kind of realizing the writing was already on the wall, and encouraged me to not go and do that I wanted to, because she thought that it would have some kind of like negative effect on his medical condition. He would like code or something right then and there. So that's a situation that I always kind of regret, not just like having balls to just do so myself and just do like what the fuck I wanted to do. And I will say there were always...
That's very tough, though. You're coming out yourself. Then you have your sister who, you look up to your older sister telling you not to as well. Like,
it's one of those times like, and I will say like I think, not to say that nothing can be repaired, but like there is still to this day a bit of like resentment for that, because that's not a situation that I can ever like go back and redo at this point in time. Like it is what it is, and that kind of...
if you just go back to straight, you don't have to come out at all.
I fucking hate you. I fucking hate you so much.
Pretend it never happened.
But now that
I'll stay in drag. We're good.
You'll be my wife. I love it. You might have to turn the makeup down a little bit. Maybe not this green hair.
Natural.
A woman. But now that I've completely brought the room down and we've trauma dumped, as we said we were going to do, I do want to stress the fact that after coming out, there is a period of time where it's different for everybody. I feel like maybe I should just speak for us, where it does get better. It 1000% gets better. It may get different, but it gets better for sure. Right now, we are at the point where I remember when I came out at first, I said, like, I'm never going to be like the gay that like says like I'm gay on a t-shirt or something like that. And now literally 90% of the shit I wear is some kind of drag queen entertainment merchandise or some pride bullshit, or like literally anything. I'm almost always wearing something gay, or if not, my hair is pink.
Like you also have neon pink hair, just to seal
or my
the
skinny
deal,
jeans,
in case
or this,
they were
that, or the
wondering.
other. Like, so there is a point in time where it does get better, and I encourage anybody who is struggling with accepting themselves. Obviously, you have to do it on your own terms, and coming out to your family is a different journey for everybody, but just start the journey. I think it is very important to live an authentic life. We are only here for literally X amount of time. This is one thing, back to the experience with my dad. He knew he had a terminal disease, but there was a time where he was released from the hospital. He was supposed to be cleared, good to go, and he woke up about 6 hours after he was released from the hospital and literally like could not breathe. They put him on a ventilator after that, and 2 weeks later he was pulled off the ventilator and died. So like he knew there was a terminal illness, but like didn't know it was going to be that fucking quick. He was supposed to have about a year more than what he actually ended up having. So like we don't know how long we're going to have, and life is too fucking short to be anything but yourself.
I know it was a big one for me. I remember growing up, being gay, obviously, like we talked about, you're a little bit more in tune to what people say and what they're saying, because when you walk into a room, you don't want to act too gay and have people call you out. You don't want to be noticed for being gay. So you're very, I'm not observant, but you are very, what is the word I'm looking for, of yourself. When you are self-aware, you're very self-aware to not act a certain way or do this or do that. You want to make sure that you're acting straight.
You keep saying the word. We have to grow up being like Academy Award-winning actors, depending upon which environment we're in at the time, whether we're at school with our friends that kind of know more about us, or whether we're at the extended family party, or whether we're at the close family party, or whatever. We have to be 52 different people.
But like in being observant like that, one thing I did hear a lot of people say growing up my entire life is like, how are you doing? Same shit, different day, 9 to 5, this, that. And I was like, is that what I want it all to be? Where I just like succumb to this straight life where I'm the one gay guy working at the salon, or the like, it happened all the time. Oh, I've never had a gay guy cut my hair before. You're like, oh my fucking God, like I'm the token gay guy. So I was like, I don't want to do this. I just want to do what I love. I mean, I was doing all of these things as hobbies already, you know what I mean? I was I was doing all I was like, I just want to make this who I am and my legacy. And that's when I kind of said, fuck it. Like, we're going balls to the wall.
No, and I think you kind of wanting to do that inspired me to take the business side of things, and here we are with an entire...
necessary, obviously. I can only be so creative and run around with a chicken with their head cut off without somebody wrangling me.
And I was like, and I can't do business without the creative side of this industry as well. So I think it's just very fun that we've taken all of that kind of stuff that we went through growing up and whatnot, and have turned it now into a career and a stamp in the industry, so to speak. But when we're going to take another quick break, but when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about what it was like being gay back in like the late 90s, early 2000s versus what it's like being gay now. And then just get into some of the reasons why we also started Drag Queen Entertainment. I think that'll be fun.
Let's do it.
So we'll take a quick little break, and we will be right back after this.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Trauma Fest 2024. My name's Astala, Vista, and we are here with my hubby, Jimmy Boone, and we are pretty much talking about all things growing up gay. So when we just left for break, you were talking about the difference between coming out maybe in the 90s versus now. So let's chit-chat about that a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like
we have some insight, obviously. We have Evan, who is 22, so he has a
baby.
A younger experience, obviously.
He loves to remind us how old we are.
With people coming out. Evan has not came out. He is not gay, but... he knows people who have, and it's a much more nonchalant experience, I guess, now coming out.
He was just explaining during the break that most people within his generation, when people come out, it's literally like and?
I love
right?
that.
Like at the end of the day, like what does?
I mean, unless I'm sucking on it or playing with it, I don't really care.
Literally, that's the only time it's really applicable. But I just know from hearing stories and stuff. I guess when I came out, I think it was 2006 or 7-ish. What year was it for you?
It would have been 2006 for me.
Okay, so literally same year, pretty much. We were different ages, but the same year. So I think we were like right in that like middle transition period where it like wasn't the worst for the majority of the experiences, but like there's still a lot of assholes in the world. And I think maybe 10 or so years before us, I feel like that was the time period where most people, I think it was like at the end of like the AIDS epidemic, like that was winding down for the most part.
Yeah, like the one queer person we had in our family was my uncle's brother, who unfortunately passed of AIDS, and like that is the only reference my family had literally, like, to a queer person.
I had an uncle that died of AIDS.
Literally.
That's like the phrase we always hear at the halls. Oh my gosh. But I feel like 10 years ago or so, when people were coming out, it was a completely different experience. That was at the end of the AIDS epidemic. And I feel like people were not at that time as willing to come out. Being gay was very taboo.
You're saying like the mid-90s,
late 90s. I think that was the time where Clinton had the don't ask, don't tell policy within the military. So there was a lot of things where like it was like okay to be like it wasn't illegal to be gay necessarily, but like it wasn't accepted either.
It was clear, like, you know,
we don't
like,
want to hear
your
about
right
it.
to fight for the country depends on if you suck dick or not. Like,
and if we will take your life for the country, but we don't want to know if you suck dick.
Literally.
Like that was too much. But I do feel like we are getting to a place in 2024 where we are nowadays where, although there are definitely aspects of the world where it's scary to be a queer person, 100%, I feel like within the global community, I do feel like it is getting better. And I feel like within, hopefully, a year or two from now, things will have quieted down.
I mean, we have the right to get married now. Like
Yes.
that is a big one in itself. I told you I got to go to the first queer wedding in
Yeah,
New
no,
Jersey.
that was amazing.
And
Literally
that
amazing.
was just an experience in itself. I do remember though when they asked the governor, like, how do you feel about gay marriage? He's like, I follow the law. So like you could tell he was not
Oh,
about it by any
Jesus
means.
Christ.
But like that change in itself is a gigantic hop. Like we're getting there. Things have changed big time.
No, 100%. And just the fact that you see more rights and regulations and things like that for queer people just across the board. Obviously, a lot of them are being challenged and have been challenged over the past few years.
It's a fight. It is.
It is a fight. And hopefully we will get back to an America where people's rights are only increasing rather than being taken away. That's what we are looking for, obviously. But I think that kind of brings us to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which was how us growing up gay in basically both rural areas of New Jersey, we didn't see too much queer exposure or events or literally anything queer around us, with the exception of like hearing of things that may be happening in like New York City or Philly or Key West or Vegas or this, that, whatever. So part of the reason why we wanted to start Drag Queen Entertainment, and I'll let you speak on this as well, was to kind of fill that void. So do you want to talk a little bit more about like our inspiration for creating these queer events?
Yeah. So I grew up in North Jersey, but I was very young when I moved from there. I was like 12, 13, like I said, when I moved in with my dad. North Jersey definitely had a little bit more of a gay scene, but you're not really going to the gay bars at 12, so I didn't really experience that one. But when I moved down here with my dad, I talked about this in the last episode, there was one gay bar in the area, and it was the diviest gay bar in the world. We got to go there together, and then the only other gay bar they had was in Atlantic City that literally closed down on my 21st birthday weekend. So unless you were going into Philadelphia, there was no way to go to a queer-friendly event in South Jersey.
No.
There really wasn't. There was absolutely nothing. And people are always like, well, why do you need a queer bar? Blah, blah, blah. Well, because when you walk into a straight bar and you have a tenth of femininity on you and you're a guy, everybody turns and looks at it. Just like
walk into the Golden Nugget in like Atco, New Jersey,
and
with
you won't
this
walk
hair.
out.
Do it. I dare you.
Yeah, so there was nothing to where you could just kind of be yourself and have fun colored hair and wear what you want to wear. And we went to drag shows. It was the place where we got to finally feel like, oh, wow, this is incredible. We can really let our freak flag fly, do what we want to do, wear what we want to wear, be who we are. And we need more of that. So obviously the bar closed down, the Atlantic City bar closed down, and then we were kind of left at literally 21 years old like, well, what do we do now? Where do we go? I don't want to go to Philly all the time. It's 45, 50 minutes away. This is a thing. And that's really how it all started.
Yeah. And we weren't the only people, clearly, that had that desire to stay local. Obviously, if you're going to a bar or whatever, the idea is to drink a little bit. So you don't want to be driving 45 minutes, an hour, or whatever it is, across the bridge, this, that, or the other.
Or I would take the Patco, because we were as smart as we
Pisco,
possibly could.
you
We would
mean.
literally
The
take a
Pisco.
Patco and then take a taxi from the Patco back to our house, so we were able to drink. We were responsible there, except for the fact that I'm in drag on the Patco. That is just as dangerous
You
as
want the
drunk
real
driving.
VIP? You want the real VIP?
Like that, they are both very dangerous. Traveling in drag on the Patco and drunk driving, I don't know which one is honestly worse. They're both really, really bad. But we did what we had to do.
We did. And then we were slowly able to identify venues within the South Jersey area that weren't necessarily gay bars by any means. They were the regular bars, straight bars, whatever you want to call them. But they had similar, I guess, core values, and also just wanted to make an inclusive audience where everybody could come. That is one thing that
This was before the war on drag, too. Venues were much more, like, oh, this is like a fun night drag. Like, it's a good time. Plot twist 10 years later, now drag queens are everything under the sun. But
We're
there was a time where drag was exactly what it is right here. Just a really creative person who likes to wear fancy costumes and perform and entertain people. And there was no spin on it that it was this or that or satanic or anything.
And most of these are 21 plus events anywhere where you're going to be
21 plus
carded before you come
events,
in. So it's like, it is what it is. But anyway, besides that, it was just important for us to create that like presence, that what is the word? I guess it is presence. Just that queer presence in the area, because it didn't exist. And
queer people exist in New Jersey.
and it's very refreshing to see. Not that I think we're responsible for this by any means. I think it's just culture in general. But since we've started what we started, there's just been kind of like other initiatives as well. There's the Haddon Township Pride Parade. There's so many individual towns that are now hosting their own Pride events every June, and just trying to make that like an impactful part of their the county and town governments.
And that is how the change happened.
It's
It's everybody
slow.
just scratching away
Yep.
at this little board until they get to the frickin' lottery ticket.
No, 100%. So I think we've given a lot of our experiences, and I think it's a known fact that a lot of the people that both listen to this and come to our shows are allies more so than the queer community.
Yes.
So maybe do you have any resources that you might be able to tell people both that are looking for maybe friends or family members within the queer community to give them some resources, or how allies can help within the queer community itself?
Yes, so obviously PFLAG is a very, very big one. I think PFLAG is great. That stands for Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. So that is basically just people who associate with a queer person, or maybe you don't even, but you understand the struggle, and you just want to go there, you want to help, you want to volunteer. There's different chapters. There's Philadelphia, there's Collingswood. So check that out on PFLAG. I don't know if it's .com or .org. But then I also have some other resources here that are not just for allies. They are also for some queer people as
100%.
well.
Some of them have resources as far as like hotlines that you can talk to, legal care, all sorts of things.
Yep.
So when we post this episode, we will be sure to post all of the links and stuff to these resources within the event description, or episode description, excuse me.
So I do have them separated between whether they are New Jersey local, if you are a local listener, or if you are national. So
Look at you clever
we've
girl.
got some options. So as I said, PFLAG, that one is actually national. So regardless of wherever you are, check out where the chapters are. Then we have the Attic Youth Center. That is a New Jersey local one that I believe is in Philadelphia, right? The Mazzoni Center, another one in Philadelphia, a great resource. And then last but certainly not least in New Jersey, the Haddon Township Equity Initiative. That is the pride that we are part of
Yeah,
every
they're the
single
organization
year.
that puts on the parade.
They are incredible. They are doing some incredible things for queer people in the area.
And not only just for the queer community, a lot of marginalized communities in the world. So.
You're 1,000% right. I'm sitting here just saying queer people. They do so much. It's not even funny.
They're making an impact in a place where a lot of other people are not making an impact.
Yep. So they're doing the damn thing. Then if you are nowhere near us, if you are listening, I see we got some viewers from all over. We love to see it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. But if you are not New Jersey local, we got some other options for you. You've probably heard of this one before, but it's the Trevor Project. Look up the number of their hotline. They have a hotline that you can call literally 24 hours. We also have the Matthew Shepard Foundation, the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund, the Equity Federation, and last but certainly not least, you've probably seen these stickers all over the place. I think they were actually in Will and Grace back in the day. Is that right?
Yep.
The Human Rights Campaign. So those are the little blue stickers with the little yellow equal sign on there. But they are some great resources, whether you are an ally who does want to get involved, or if you are a real life queer person that actually needs some resources. So please check that out. Like Jimmy said, we're going to list all of them. In addition to me just rattling them off, we're going to list them on the video at the end.
And if you are an ally or a queer person, those are a great organization to not only utilize the resources that they have, but you can also donate your time and your financial resources to them. Money goes a long way in the world that we live in, unfortunately, and with the efforts that they take do cost a lot of money. So anything that you can contribute does go a long way.
You can also go to a local drag show. Check out your local divas. I don't know where you're at. If you're local, come to a show. If not, Google the shows around you. Go find your local divas and support the hell out of them there.
That is supporting the local queer community directly.
Yes.
Well, I had a lovely time speaking with you today
Same.
about our...
I feel lighter. I feel refreshed.
Right? Did we just go to therapy
We
for
did.
not
We went to therapy
$250 an hour?
this is couples therapy, but when the couple is the therapist as well.
Wow, and these little cameras. It's
Saving
lovely.
money,
It's
honey. We're
lovely.
thrifty, all right? We were extreme couponers back in the day, so this is a therapy extreme couponing edition.
Can we have like a flashback extreme couponer episode?
I don't think they're ready for my 7-inch organized binder with every single coupon policy from every single store. I was a Karen, I will admit it, but I knew.
Do you remember Michelle from
everything.
Target? Michelle from Target.
Michelle from Target.
Do you remember?
Bitch. I proved her wrong 3 times.
We
the same
walked her
day.
to the aisle.
I walked her to the aisle. That's a whole nother podcast.
Sorry. Back to what we were talking about. I had a lovely time speaking with you today about our coming out experiences, growing up gay in New Jersey, and everything in between. But I am very, very excited to continue our journey here on For the Love of Drag Pod. How about you, Miss Astala?
I am very excited. I mean, for all of our visual listeners, or visual watchers, I guess, right? They see our brand new For the Love of Drag podcast sign.
Yeah, one thing that we did a pretty good job of editing out, with the exception of the Vinchell episode that we filmed, was because the sign that we used to have right here would fall over about 62 times an episode. So now this lovely one is installed here and won't fall over ever
Yes,
again.
yes. So with that being said, we have to give a very big thank you to some people that are allowing us to afford these fabulous signs.
Yes.
The chair upgrades that are coming soon. If you see these chairs, they're not very comfortable. So that's going to be hopefully soon because, girl, I know I'm wearing pads, but I'm feeling it back here. So I want to give a very, very, very big thank you right now to all of our close fam drag members. Thank you guys so much for all of the support. And in addition to our close fam drag members, I want to give a gigantic thank you right now to all of our Call Me Mother sponsors. We have the one, the only, the diva herself, Miss Barbara Ranbo. Hey. We also have the DragFan 27, and last but certainly not least, Kathy P. And the P stands for Pay It No Mind, okay? It's a queer reference right there, all right?
If you know, you know.
But I guess with that being said, Jimmy Boone.
That wraps things up for this week's episode of For the Love of Drag Pod. Thank you all so much for tuning in this week, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time, hasta la vista, mother tuggers.